Walter Dilbeck was a very controversial man. According to his daughter Janie, people either loved him or hated him. Every man of Fox Company, 253rd Infantry Regiment, 63rd Infantry Division, respected him for his part he played on April 6, 1945, in ensuring the 2nd Battalion, 253rd Infantry Regiment was not destroyed. All who knew his name in Germany respects him for saving the life of Maria Elizabeth Gotz on April 6. This is Walter Dilbeck's story of April 6, 1945.
At around 12:30 hours, the 17th SS reconnaissance was spotted outside of Buchhof, and a firefight began. Because of this, the 17th SS called in mortar and artillery fire. This resulted in many of the houses in Buchhof to catch on fire. During this firefight, PFC Dilbeck was in his foxhole in front of the church in the apple orchard. April 6th was a very important day for Dilbeck. It was one of his daughter's birthday. He had 3 daughters at the time, and he wore one of each of their baby socks around his neck on his dog tag chain. He saw that a building was on fire, and inside the building was an 8-year-old girl named Maria Gotz. With no regard to his personal safety, and probably thinking of his own daughter, PFC Dilbeck ran over to the burning building. By the time Dilbeck got there, Maria's mother had taken everything she could carry and was dragging Maria behind her. Maria said, "I was very afraid," and Mr. Dilbeck, without further ado, he picked me up in his arms and carried me to safety. We walked past the fallen soldiers. That was a terrible sight that met us along the way. There was a large basement where many German civilians were staying, and that is where Dilbeck took Maria. He then returned to his foxhole.
At 1,545 hours on April 6, 1945, the German counterattack struck the 1st Platoon. Only a handful of men stood their ground from 1st Squad led by PFC Walter J. Dilbeck. The remainder of the platoon fell back to the town of Buchhof because they had no commanders to stop them. When F Company retreated to Buchhof, the enemy forces moved into the foxholes as quickly as they were vacated. From this new position, the Germans poured out a deadly stream of automatic and small arms fire against F Company, giving them no chance to reorganize. Realizing that something had to be done to stop the enemy attack, PFC Dilbeck stopped voluntarily on a bare knoll and began to pour deadly automatic rifle fire into the ranks of the charging SS troops. Dilbeck was trying to keep the front down with his Browning automatic rifle. He had 3 ammo bursts and 2 men with carbine shooting the left flank. PFC Dilbeck said got a bullet hole through the leg that broke the bone, which I didn't know at the time, but it came out sideways. I had 3 baby's socks, as I said before, on my dog tags. So I packed some mud into the hole in my leg and I tied a tourniquet right underneath the top of the leg which was tied, and it was very hard to stop the blood. I couldn't get the blood stopped as my leg was jumping on me. I couldn't get it quieted down so I could shoot the AR, and so I put the AR on this wagon wheel that was close to me. In front of me was Grover J. Dees, 19-year-old boy from Mobile, Alabama. Dees had gotten shot in the stomach and he was standing with a hole in his stomach trying to shoot these bastards down until these boys could line up 300 more rounds of ammunition. The next shot that this boy got was through the mouth, right through the side of his jaw, and came out the other side. He was vomiting blood and he was still firing his carbine. This boy should have had the Congressional Medal of Honor if anybody should have ever gotten one. He dropped dead with 2 holes in him, still firing his carbine. A few minutes after that, the Germans were behind Dilbeck in the apple orchard. There was crossfire happening. Dilbeck said as I turned around, they started firing in the orchard behind me and this German shot me through the back. This went through my canteen, through my belt, and it felt like I was on fire. I began to see lights, like I'm going to sleep, and I had my AR and I kept thinking heaven was coming or something. I saw streaks through the sky and everything else. Finally I took a drink and I took some sulfa and I saw the SS troopers. They were within about 60 to 80 feet and they were trying to get to the AR, and we were down to 3 of us left, and 2 of the guys are throwing me 3 magazines and the last crowd I couldn't get. He kept coming. He was walking straight up with both hands to me, and he was the biggest German I'd ever seen before then or since. He had both hands waving in the air, acting like he was trying to surrender, but he was trying to get the AR. I shot him 5 or 6 times and gave him 2 bursts, and that is the last thing that I remember, before he passed out due to blood loss over the wagon wheel. Dilbeck and Dees had killed or wounded over 60 SS troops. Their actions in the apple orchard caused 2nd Battalion of the 38th SS Regiment attack to draw down and bought Fox Company and 2nd Battalion HQ Company 253rd Infantry much needed time.
Walter Dilbeck's lifeless body was removed from the wagon wheel by members of B Company 253rd Infantry Regiment and taken to the first aid station where doctors saved his life. Somehow, one of the dog tags made it to the woods north of Uetergrusham. Nearly 30 years after the last bullet was fired, a boy named Oliver Amann was playing in the woods and found the dog tag. In 2022, after keeping the dog tag safe for nearly half a century, Oliver was able to get the dog tag to Dilbeck's daughter.
After the war, Dilbeck lost 2 races for mayor of Evansville, Indiana. He became a millionaire in real estate investments In 1974, Dilbeck gathered as many of the men from Fox Company as he could find and gave them an all-expense-paid trip to Europe. Part of this trip involved going to Buchhof and putting up a memorial for the battle.
It was on this trip when Dilbeck was reunited with Maria Gotts, who was 37 years old and had 3 children.
In 1966, Dilbeck launched the Global Baseball League. This short-lived professional baseball league came to an end in 1969. Dilbeck truly loved the sport of baseball, and his hopes of returning to the minor league after the war were crushed in the apple orchard at Buchhof. During the Vietnam War, Dilbeck made several trips to Vietnam as a civilian for the United States government. Dilbeck was in business with Vice President Spiro T. Agnew. In 1976, Dilbeck was sentenced to 60 days for income tax evasion, and this is why